A 29-year-old guy can be rich and be among the movers and shakers of an industry. But to be a billionaire that makes other wealthy people constantly look at the news for updates is not what we see every day. Apart from knowing what he wanted earlier enough, he also knew how to get it. Markus, being a tech-oriented guy, started his taxi-hailing business at a relatively young age. And guess what he did when the business started gaining traction? He dropped out of college in his first year and bade the possibility of securing a first degree a goodbye. How brave can one be? If there is anything that distinguished Markus from others, it is the fact he didn't go to an already crowded place. The usual story had always been about young people full of ideas traveling to the United States, a country whose popularity stemmed from making dreams come true, but Markus was different. Instead, he mapped out a place where there was less competition, dropped his seeds of an idea, and stretched out his tentacles. He first started in his city, Tallinn, where at the time Uber had not started a business, and then he decided to take it one step at a time, by propagating his business in one city and making sure it was accepted before he moved on to the next. His priority from the beginning was Eastern and Central Europe and Africa. It is interestingly noteworthy that all these places were cities that Uber, his largest competitor, had not yet covered. Markus Villig's story is an exciting and thought-provoking one. That would leave you wondering if you could pull off Markus's feats. But then you have to first ask yourself some sincere questions. Do you have what it takes? Are you tenacious? Can you deal with the shame attached to dropping out of school to pursue your dreams? Whether you answer yes or no to the above question, the truth remains that the story of Markus is a must-watch. Where was he born? Who gave birth to this genius? The most important question is, how did he become Europe's youngest billionaire? Markus Villig was born on the 17th of December 1993 to Mr. and Mrs. Villig in Estonia. From an early age, Markus had always been interested in tech. Many people may not know, but the popular app Skype was founded in his home country, Estonia, in 2004. And as a young lad of 11 years, this inspired him greatly. He had since then been thinking of tech and how to launch his brand too. The Skype app hit closer to home for Markus because his older brother called Martin worked as a software engineer for Skype and at some point hosted hackathon challenges which Markus had the privilege to participate in. Martin's, unknowingly, was the one who planted the idea of Taxify, which is now known as Bolt in Markus's mind, when he made use of a web-based taxi ordering system on a work trip in Ukraine. Markus, like any other teenager, was enrolled in college after he finished high school in 2013 to study his dream course of computer science at the University of Tartu. However, rather than be filled with the euphoria of starting college, he commenced working on the first iteration of Bolt after receiving a soft loan of €5,000 from his family. Hardly did he finish the first semester before taking a bow to work full-time at his company. Because his ride-hailing app was beginning to get traction, with this loan, he was able to build the very first prototype of his app, while also recruiting drivers personally on the street of Tallinn. At first, his goal for Taxify was to mitigate his city's transport system. From time to time, he always struggled to book taxis on busy Friday and Saturday nights, and when he did get one, he would have to wait endlessly for the taxi to arrive. And on top of that, the customer service from the taxi drivers was terrible. Everything he experienced from ordering the taxi to using it was nerve-grating, to say the least. It was the series of experiences that pushed Markus to launch Taxify at the age of 25. This huge innovation made him the youngest unicorn founder in Europe, which consequently showed that Uber was finally having a competition. The Bolt company has evolved into a global mobility company with over 100 million customers in over 45 countries with 5 products, including ride-hailing, micro-mobility rental, car sharing, food, and grocery delivery, which is ordered via the Bolt Food app. While the company started to offer rides in London in 2017, the regulator Transport for London (TfL) shut it down, saying it had failed to obtain an operating license. This was a major blow that set the company back a few paces. Another challenge that almost made Markus give up was when he visited Serbia in Belgrade to meet one of the local taxi companies. Halfway through the meeting, he realized that the guys were mafia, as they had a revolver on the table. Whatever message they were trying to pass shook him to his core. Markus Villig, between 2015 to 2019, raised Bolt from $730,000 to $142 million. However, he couldn't afford big losses, so he decided to operate the company close to the break-even point. Some of the challenges that are common with startups are the inability to pay salaries. Markus went through this rough patch too. He admitted that it was his brother Martins, who is 15 years older than him, who always came to his rescue. His brother, who witnessed the company from ground zero, has had to dip into his savings to make payroll. However, to save costs, Bolt relied on hacks such as posting ads and recruiting drivers through Facebook, instead of splurging on flashy advertising campaigns. Rather than exotic hotels, Markus would lodge at a cheap apartment in Estonia's capital, Tallinn. Although Markus Villig is young, he has some principles that he has constantly lived by that have helped him to grow his company, Bolt, to where it is today. These lessons are: 1. Ability to focus. In many of his interviews, he made it known that it had been clear like a crystal to him from the very beginning that he loved tech, and he wanted to build a consumer product around it. The desire to help better the world has kept him focused. As time went by, he had an epiphany when his brother used a web-based taxi ordering system. He saw how convenient it was to order a taxi service from the comfort of one's home without having to stay stranded on the roadside until a cab comes along. Remember, he aimed to better the world with tech. He thought about the hundreds of billions of dollars that were being spent on transportation globally by consumers annually, and how they in return get poor services. That was his chance to enter the transportation, and he grabbed it with both hands. For starters, he knew charity begins at home, so he focused on creating the best transport app in Estonia, his home country, before spreading the good news out to other regions and countries. And to expand to other countries' markets, he made sure to acquaint himself with different local markets and the problems they faced, so he could fashion a solution that is tailored to their needs. For instance, Uber was already dominant in Africa, but they were accepting no other forms of payment other than credit cards. This was a big issue, as a lot of people who didn't have cards could not access the transport service. Markus saw a hole that needed to be plugged, so he examined other payment options, especially cash. Also, he looked at driver recruitment, which is essential to growth. Some drivers can be very hostile to their passengers, and with these, he knew he had to be careful in selecting drivers. Furthermore, Uber, regardless of the country, was using the same registration process and terms of conditions for all their drivers. Therefore, it was tough for potential drivers in some African markets such as South Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana. Markus recognized these demerits and worked towards easing them. 2. Stay lean and mean. When Markus was starting, he followed the lean startup model, which meant he decided to measure consumer interest to avoid needless or excessive costs and use of resources in product creation and subsequent development. What did he do to achieve this? He simply drew a plan to sign up the riders and drivers before he committed to building the app. He went out to conduct personal surveys in Estonia's capital, Tallinn, to recruit taxi drivers in the early days of the business. He didn't stop there. He sent out emails to students in his college about Taxify. To guard against the waste of money, Markus didn't borrow the €5,000 from his family until he was able to sign up enough riders and drivers who had great potential. While the money was originally meant for his studies, he convinced his parents into lending him. With the money, he built the first version of the app. And for the money to last long, he remained disciplined by not accruing debts by hiring people or indulging in expensive marketing campaigns. 3. Competition has two sides. Markus acknowledged that while competition can be good for business as they keep you on your toes and push you to outdo yourself, it can also be overwhelming as you may get caught up. Competing with a huge startup like Uber isn't a walk in the park. However, Bolt has been able to win over customers and outdo Uber in some areas by proposing lower transportation charges to make tech-based transportation systems more accessible to their clients to make their genuine intention known. Bolt app distributes promotional codes to its consumers, which allows them to benefit from amazing deals the company has to offer. In addition, Bolt only charges a 15% commission to its drivers, which pales in comparison to Uber, which charges 25%. The result of this is that sometimes Bolt customers pay less and Bolt drivers earn more. Isn't this incredible? Bolt was valued at $8.4 billion in January 2022. This was after he raised $709 million in new funding, which was led by Sequoia Capital and Fidelity Investments. That valuation projected Markus as the youngest self-made billionaire in Europe. In recognition of his strides, he has received several awards and global recommendations. Markus was featured as the youngest CEO in the Forbes Under 30 list in 2016. He also received the Presidential Award for the Best Young Entrepreneur in Estonia. Markus conferred on him the title of the EY's Estonian Entrepreneur of the Year at the World Entrepreneur of the Year Business Forum in 2018. To cap it all, the national newspaper Aripayev named him Entrepreneur of the Year in 2022. In November 2022, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs 2022 could not but recognize his hard work and made Markus a partner. This was for supporting the country's foreign policy interests and supporting Ukraine after it was invaded by Russia. While Markus is young and ambitious, he never fails to support other businesses. He is an active early-stage angel investor, and some of of the companies he has invested in include Yaga, a platform for buying and selling fairly used fashion goods, and Koos, a platform that deals in stakeholder incentivization. Markus Villig's story is no doubt an inspiring one. It shows that getting a university degree is not the only way to success and stardom. However, everyone cannot toe the same path. If you find yourself following in Markus's footsteps, then you need to have a clear-cut plan for a solution you want to solve. Be determined and be sure to add a copious amount of perseverance to the mix. If you enjoyed this video, then you would no doubt enjoy other videos of other successful people in the world with unique stories. To get updates on them, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to hit the bell button so you can get an immediate notification as soon as the videos drop.